Hello, I hope you are well today. And today we'd like actually to share with you something really interesting. It's about a really nice feature of PHP, and that feature is called the name argument. So since PHP 8, it introduced a nice way, an elegant way to skip optional arguments. So you can skip them easily, but you can also flip them over and you can mix them, so you don't need to follow the orders by mentioning, actually simply by mentioning the name of each argument. So when you mention the name of each argument, so here you see you have the parameter and then you have the argument, and when you mention just the name, that's it, PHP knows which one it is. Obviously the required arguments are still mandatory, for the optional ones, you can just mention the ones you want. If it's, imagine, if it's one at the very end of your function, you can just mention the name of the parameter and the argument, and you don't have to mention the others that was before that argument you wanted to mention. So I will actually show you right now. An example is always much easier, because I believe now it's a bit weird for you to understand, because obviously when you really do it, it's much easier to understand. So I will have a function named say hi, and that function will have three arguments. So the first one, it will be the name. So the name it will be me, for instance. I can also use a feature from PHP 7, which is the type of each argument. And then I will have a second one is hometown. Again, it's a string, so we'll mention string. This is available since PHP 7, but anyway, what we are doing, the named parameters, that feature is available since PHP 8, so you don't have to matter about this. It's obviously available in your PHP version. And finally, I have country. Perfect. And the two last ones are optional, so we'll do null, and here equals null as well. And then inside of the body, it will be I will have a variable message, and I will use double quotes to use a variable inside. So I will have hi and then the name, and then I will do if we have hometown. So if this one is mentioned, I will do message, again the variable. Here I will use the concatenation assignment operator. So I will assign and concatenate at the same time the message variable, and I will have in, so the hometown. Oh, here I need a variable $, hometown, and city, and then, so that's done. And then if, again, if we have a country, if this one has been mentioned, again I will do the same as here. When I copy paste, I have to be careful that I will place this one. Perfect. And then I will just return the message. So actually this function returns a string. Beautiful. So now I can do equal, and I can also mention that I want a string type. So actually it's really nice. You can just use, I will show, yeah, I will just use string type equals 1, and here it will be declare. Perfect. This one. So this one, PHP will throw an error if those arguments are not what we mentioned. So here we add a null as well. Perfect. I mean, you don't really have to care about this. It's just if you don't have this, PHP will cast everything to the type we mentioned. If we mention the type has to be strict, if here you mention a boolean or a number, PHP will throw an error to say, hey, be careful, it's not the type that the signature of the function has. Okay, so now I can do echo, say, hi, here to be a name, and so there I don't have to mention the name of the argument, but there, the second argument, I don't want to mention the hometown, I want to mention the country only. So I will do country, and then I will do Malta, for instance. Perfect. So let's try this. I will open the terminal. I will use the inbuilt PHP server, and I will go to Safari, and I will refresh to this one. And to see, it works. So I have just the city. Now if I mention, I have just the country, sorry. As you can see, I have city there. It's because I did a copy-paste. Usually when you do a copy-paste, it's a bit dangerous. That's why it's nice to use a PHP unit, so to do a unit test. When you are writing unit test, you are sure that actually the function works as expected. So here I will do city, Valletta, for instance, and then I will refresh, or named parameter, city, I have a issue because, it's not city, it's hometown. That's why it didn't exist. So now, Valletta, it works. Actually, I think it's better to use city for the parameter. So now I will do city, perfect. And actually, as I said, you can flip it over. You can have hometown first, and then I will have name here. However, name is required because it doesn't have a default value, and PHP will complain, name, now it's city. So I will do city, and I will refresh, you see, it works very well, beautiful. So now I will remove name, and you will see PHP won't like it. And if I refresh, you will have a fatal error saying that obviously name argument wasn't passed because it's required. Now I will again mention name. You don't have to mention it if it's the first one you mention. I mean, you don't have to mention the name of the argument. You don't have to do this if you leave it as first, because indeed it's the first argument. Then I will have, again, country. And you will see I can flip it over. So country was the last argument, and I will mention as second. And then here I will have city. And this argument, obviously, so here it's Malta I will do, for instance, and then Valletta. Let's refresh. Amazing, and it works. PHP understands that. And it's also nice to use named arguments because it's much more readable. As you can see, you see the name directly. So when you have a function, you see just the argument and you see, oh yeah, this is city, because otherwise sometimes Valletta or like true, false, if you have like, I don't know, output, it could be is, yeah, I could have like output false, and if you just see false here, it's what does mean false? You know, it's hard to read. However, if I have output like this, it's much more readable. I can know, oh yeah, false argument. Obviously, the argument is output. So yeah, it makes sense. So yes, I hope it makes sense. And if you use PHP 8, I highly recommend you to use this feature. It's just amazing because it will improve, obviously, the readability of your code, but also it will improve, it will improve the way you write the function. Before, if I only wanted to mention country and I didn't want to mention city, the optional argument, I had to do this. So I had to do that, and then the name of the country, like Malta, for instance. And you see, this is not nice, and it's more code. And obviously, when you mention the name of the argument, it's also more code, but it's much more readable. So I hope it helps, and happy coding.